Welcome back to the Monday Mashup, your weekly show covering all things football from the previous weekend. Joining me tonight on the show, of course, representing the Reds, Man United, the Red Devils, Mark Hogan. How are we doing, Mark?
How's it going, Noel? Thanks for having me on.
Also representing the Red Devils down below, Darren McCumsky. How are we doing, Darren?
All good, Noel. Thanks, man.
Good to have you on. Of course, we wouldn't be rounding out a Monday Mashup if Graham wasn't on representing the Spurs. Plenty to smile about this week, Graham.
Oh, yeah.
Happy days. Fuck Harry Kane, huh?
You.
Coming on representing the Reds, great win against Norwich 3-0. Craig, my buddy on the show as always. How we doing, Craig?
All good, Niall. Thanks for having us on.
Good. Let's get some housekeeping out of the way first of all before we get into this. Obviously, Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube for all the episodes of the show. All the audio versions of the show are available through Anchor, all your different apps in there if you want to get the audio version show. And if you'd like to contact the show, at _upper_tier on Twitter, and on Facebook and Instagram, the upper tier. Also, a little bit of heads up for this week. A couple of new shows, one that dropped today, doing a review of the weekend's action in a new show we call The Good, The Bad and The Ugly. Have a look at that. Lots to talk about. That dropped today, so get over there, drop a like and a share, all that good stuff on it. We're also going to be doing a Chelsea Arsenal preview at some stage this week, no doubt, on the Chelsea Roar. Craig will be joining me on the Shankly sessions more than once this week, as my partner in crime, Dean, is heading off on a free transfer to Galatasaray. But Craig will be joining me this week as well. We're going to be doing a Burnley preview as well on the Shankly sessions.
Oh, can't wait.
We also have a new show on the upper tier going out on Friday called Beat the Bookie, something that you guys are all mad into, picking out some serious bets there so we can advise our viewers on hopefully how to make a few bob and not lose it. I think most of us this week did all right. We got a few bets up, so it wasn't too bad.
I got too greedy.
Well, this is what happens,
You're a Liverpool fan after all.
Who's that?
They
win 6-1 and Pogba has a performance once in a blue moon and he's talking. Fuck that.
Right, let's get into it anyway. Friday night saw the Premier League back, which is absolutely brilliant and probably a fitting setting for the season to start back with Brentford, first time in the Premier League, back up in the first division after I think about 75 years. Brand new stadium, boisterous crowd. And up against a kind of what we would call a wounded animal from the traditional top six in Arsenal. I think most of us last week predicted on this that we could see a Brentford win out of this. And certainly when we heard that Lacazette, Aubameyang and Partey were out, we were lumping on it. Mark, what was you thinking? Brentford, Arsenal?
Yeah, do you know what got me a kickoff? Like, the stadium only holds 17,000, but it sounded like there was 70,000 there. It was unbelievable, And fair play, Thomas Frank has been playing attacking football. You can see it in the Championship last season how good they are. I've been following Brentford for a while now, watching them since Alan Judge played with them. I know Alan, so they've always been playing decent football, decent attacking football. They've just been unlucky in the past with the playoffs and stuff like that. But what a win, 2-0 first game of the season, and you could see how much it meant to the fans. You see grown men crying and all at the end. It was brilliant, unbelievable.
Yeah, absolutely. Darren, question for you. We'll delve down into news as we go along with the results because they kind of coincide with each other. Yeah. Arteta, massive job to do there at Arsenal. I've never seen such a poor back four and goalkeeper in the history of Arsenal Football Club. Can he survive?
With great difficulty. The squad is horrific, man. It's very, very poor. And, it's poor everywhere. From the back four to the reserves of the back four, to the midfield is so weak. Up front even is you've got Aubameyang and Lacazette, two guys who are kind of very half-hearted at the minute. I see just before I come up the stairs there, Barcelona are linked with Aubameyang. I think if that's something Arsenal could do and get him out the door, I think it could be probably a positive bit of business for them. Because I don't think he's adding anything to the club at the minute. I think when you've got young lads like that, they need kind of good role models around the place and stuff like that. And I know that's the kind of culture that Arteta's probably trying to create. But I think with somebody like Aubameyang, that's going to be very, very difficult. He is that kind of sulking in the corner kind of figure at times, I think there's good players at Arsenal, I got to say. I love the boy Smith Rowe. I think he's a very good player. I've seen a little bit of the lad Reece Nelson. He's not a bad player either. I like Thomas Partey. There's a couple of Kieran Tierney's very good. But again, I still don't see their I still don't see their strategy in the transfer market. Like they've got a guy like Bernd Leno who's not doing a terrible job in front or behind what's a very poor back four. And rather than, solving problems in the back four, they're looking at spending 25 to 30 million on bringing in Ramsdale. And you're just thinking, who's making these decisions? Like Arsenal aren't a club that have an awful lot of money to spend. So surely that type of money is much better spent with a holding midfield player or another centre back to go in and play next to White. Because I mean, if you're seeing Caleb Chambers the other night, and then you've got the likes of Gabriel and Mari as well, who none of them have kind of really solidified themselves in that back four. I just think it's mental.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, somewhere along the line, all the success that Arsenal had in the past was built on such strong defences and goalkeepers and stuff like that. And that's not to say they had weak midfields or forward lines. They were outstanding as well. But I just think if you're going into a Premier League season and that's your options at the back, and obviously a shaky goalkeeper as well, I think you're in serious trouble. I think this could be a very long season for Arsenal. And I think if you're trying to attract in a Lautaro Martinez, or a James Maddison or something like that, they must be looking at that going, look, I don't want any part of this. You know what I mean? I'm happy where I am,
Did you read that Barcelona are offering Coutinho in part exchange for Aubameyang as well? I
didn't see that part of it. If you're even talking about the likes of James Maddison, if James Maddison was to leave Leicester City Football Club to go and play for Arsenal, that's like signing your own death warrant. That's mental. Leicester as a club are in a much better position. They have a much better manager. They have a much better ownership. And they're a club going in the right direction that do things the right way. Arsenal are the complete opposite.
And one player I think they're going to miss this season is Odegaard. I think he made such a difference when he came in last season for them as well. Obviously going back to Madrid, but you look at Liverpool, Mo Salah going to sign a new deal. Alisson, Granit Xhaka is after signing a new deal for Arsenal. That says all about them.
Yeah, I suppose they'd probably have to look at Granit Xhaka now and probably reinstall him as captain as well, I'd imagine, wouldn't they?
He was captain. He was captain on Friday night, wasn't he? In the absence of Aubameyang. But I mean, I heard Arteta talk about it because one of the reporters mentioned, it's a big moment from having gone through what he went through with the fans and stuff like that. And but even Xhaka, he's a very, very bog standard player for Arsenal Football Club. For a club that played at the top table for so long, and we're a big player in European football. We're all used to watching Henry and Bergkamp and Perez and Edu and Ljungberg, all these lads, and the boys now are just so far off that it's scary. It really is.
Absolutely.
And look at their next two fixtures, City and Chelsea are.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they could be rock bottom with no points after 3 games.
Yeah,
very conceivably.
I was saying that on the show earlier today. Arsenal could be staring into a situation, probably for the first time in their history, where they could come out of August with no points, potentially, which would be absolutely good Lord. If they're down there, I don't know whether they'll have the heart. And I'm wondering, are we seeing the new leads unfolding? You know what I mean? Potentially, a big club falling asunder. Let's move on anyway. Saturday lunchtime, outstanding game. Obviously, one of the toys of the weekend, without a shout. The United's up against each other, Man United versus Leeds. Always a fixture, or always a fixture steeped in history and stuff like that. But of course, Mark, what was your thinking?
Yeah, it was great. I was listening to the preview. I know, Darren, you said 3-2 or something, wasn't it? So you knew there was going to be goals. I thought Bielsa would tighten up, like you said as well. I thought he would have learned from last season, but so obviously didn't. Obviously everyone was talking about Pogba and all, but Greenwood I thought was fantastic. His movement, he could have set Pogba up there at the start of the game. Pogba should have scored, really. He tried to step over and hit it wide. And Lindelof's goal for Pogba's third, or assist, sorry, for Bruno's third goal was unbelievable. What a ball through. And actually, special mention to Luke Ayling for his goal as well. That was a fantastic goal, it probably won't get the plaudits because of the result, but that was a fantastic goal. I remember Raphael, you probably remember Darren scored one like that against QPR.
QPR's right,
yeah. But it was all because we conceded. It would have been an all-round perfect performance, I would have said, on Saturday morning.
It is amazing, Darren, isn't it, the way you can perform like that? And then, of course, the headlines afterwards are basically Pogba's going to run down his contract. It's so frustrating, I'd imagine, as a Man United fan, that you go put a performance like that. I would probably argue, apart from the PSG result that time, probably one of the best performances United have put in under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer.
Yeah, look, I mean, Saturday looked like one of those days where everything just clicked, you know, and you don't necessarily have a lot of them games, but when they happen, everyone comes off the pitch happy. And, you know, like Pogba was given the freedom of Old Trafford with the Leeds back four in midfield, which we know you can't do with a guy like that. He's so creative. He sees stuff that other guys don't see. And not only does he see it, but he's able to put the ball into that area. Bruno, I thought, looked great. I think he looked really, really good, really energized. I mean, the Euros for Bruno were almost like the holidays because he played so little time. I wouldn't say it was extremely taxing for him, and he looked so fresh coming back. It was great. But yeah, regarding Pogba, you know, the headlines are always going to follow Paul Pogba, unfortunately. If he goes to Real Madrid, if he goes to Juventus, if he goes to PSG, you'll see these things again. These will keep coming up, because he's not willing to put an answer onto a question, which will stop this. And he allows Raiola to write headlines for him. And then he just sits and smiles and grins. And, you know, and like, listen, there's ways to do things in your career. And I would hope that by the end of his career, he'll look back and think, you know what, I might have made a few mistakes there. Maybe I should have tried to endear myself to a set of fans rather than being that divisive and rather than just worrying about what I was going to put in my pocket and, you know, trying to create a legacy somewhere, because he's had opportunities at big clubs. You know, you're not going to find too many clubs bigger than Juventus and Man United. But he just doesn't seem to be endearing himself to the fans and to the, you know, to the legacy of the club.
Yeah, it's a weird one as well, because the project at United now is finally, from what I see in the outside, starting to take shape as well. I mean, Varane didn't play the other day. Lindelof looked like he stepped up to give Ollie a bit of a headache, but no doubt Varane will start. Sancho only came on for a few minutes, you know what I mean? And there could be one or two more signings could potentially come in. So it's a very exciting time at United at the moment under Solskjaer. So you would think Pogba would be at the spearhead of that and turn around and go, you know something, maybe the grass isn't greener on the other side. Maybe I should stay here, set up a decent contract there, get another 3 to 4 years out of him, and be that figurehead, be that guy that everyone expects him to be, to lead United into this new Solskjaer era, you know what I mean, and potentially silverware on the way and stuff like that. But certainly the other day, and I mean, Leeds are no pushovers either. I know they looked a bit lackluster. They looked like they ran out of steam. Looked like fitness was an issue for them as well, because you look like you'd so many gears above them in terms of your play that you could have knocked in probably another couple. But yeah, it's just a very strange one. But certainly looking at Bruno and Pogba, they look fired up for this season anyway, without a shadow. And as you met, Lindelof's after stepping up. Greenwood was electric, you know what I mean? So it's all good at the moment, you know.
It happened last year with us as well, you know. We signed Alex Telles, and I think all United fans are waiting to see Alex Telles play. And the signing of Telles did so much for Luke Shaw that we ended up not seeing a whole lot of Alex Telles. And that could be something that happens this season. You know, Lindelof all of a sudden realises my place isn't guaranteed here. I need to step up a little more. You know, and that's a great headache for a manager, for any manager, you know. Yeah, that'd be ideal.
And with Greenwood as well, I think him not going to the Euros benefited him so much during the summer. You could see him; he was so fresh. You know, he looked totally on it. If he had gone to the Euros, I think it would have been a totally different story.
Yeah, I agree with you, Mark. I think he was always second favourite to get to that ball when Pogba put it around the corner, and then he just started going through the gears, and you thought, Jesus, he's onto this here, and you know, and he finished it so well, because going across the keeper like that, it's not an easy finish. But he's just clinical in front of goal. He's our most clinical striker for my money, you know, and Solskjaer said that for a little while.
And even Fred stepping up with a goal, finally. That's you know what I mean? Like, it's...
I love the man. I love him.
He's back.
Absolutely love him.
That Greenwood run, it reminded me of Noah running for last orders at the bar. He was that fast, man.
Tell you, man. Not normally that fast, but we'll go back on a few more of the other results. But I want to go to obviously the evening game, the 5:30 game, Norwich versus Liverpool. Craig, 3-0 win.
Yeah, pretty satisfied. You know, we did expect a kind of, no disrespect to Norwich, we expected a win and a pretty comfortable one at that. I'm not overly convinced. I think you kind of maybe touched on it with the topics we were going to talk about. When you create so many chances and you win 3-0, it's all well and good. But you have to remember, when you play better opposition and you create these chances and don't take them, it could be the complete opposite. I don't know how you feel about that yourself, but I feel we wasted a lot of decent chances that, right, we got away with it because, you know, we can create more against Norwich. Another game, it might be them chances you get, you don't take them, and we will suffer from them, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think looking at the first half we kind of played within ourselves, didn't we? And it was more like it was like we nearly had carried in a pre-season training half. We knew that we were much better than them, but we just kind of were trying things that just didn't come off. I think in the second half we went out there with a bit more purpose and we were more about our business. And then it was kind of strange for me because then he brings on Fabinho and Firmino.
It was nice to see them kind of, we're not used to a player of that caliber coming on.
Yeah.
I will give Kostas Tsimikas is due where credit is due. Absolutely did nothing wrong. He gave a bad ball away. I think Milner kind of let him have it a bit, but it's not in a bad way. It's just kind of, reassuring him and kind of letting them know, like, come on, keep the fucking head down and play. It's nice that, the lads obviously touched on Shaw. When Tellez came in, Shaw, became the player that he was because he got that push. And it'd be great for Tsimikas to kind of say to Robertson, when you're out or I want to fight for your place, that's what we want. We want healthy competition. I think we're going to see it with Firmino and Jota because the other two lads, I think, are pretty nailed on for the position. I thought Naby Keita, we see glimpses and sparks of what he can do. If he can stay fit, could he finally be the player that we wanted, the 52 million price tag, Oxlade-Chamberlain baffles me, to the love of God, for God's sake. You get your chance in the midfield from the start, go out and express yourself and show what you can do. I think he had a half volley over the bar and was very, missing for the rest of the game. Yeah,
it was kind of like the way we had set up the game and kind of bypassed him a bit, didn't it? Because we were hitting the front end so quick. He was kind of in that sort of middle area where the play just played through him instead of him getting involved. I think you hit the nail on the head with Keita. He was an absolute pest in midfield, breaking up play and stuff like that. But I found it weird when Fabinho came on as well. Norwich seemed to get more chances instead of less.
They got more of the ball. They got a lot more grown into the game, which you wouldn't really think with the substitutions that we had made.
Yeah.
Just a quick word and a non-biased one as well. Joe Matip is an absolute outstanding centre half. If he could stay fit, he would be up there with one of the best in the league, in my opinion. Non-biased opinion. He's absolutely rock solid.
Yeah, not only that, his distribution out of the back is brilliant as well. Some of those balls he hits the Salah up front and stuff like that are absolutely outstanding. So, yeah, good start for us. And obviously, the league table has taken its shape in terms of how we think it's going to pan out. Obviously, we're going to move on to Graham now. We're going to talk about the last game of the season. Harry Kane on the side of the milk carton missing again for personal reasons. No one knows what's going on. No one knows what's going on there, I'd imagine, except for the hierarchy at Man City and at Spurs. But Graham, didn't look like you were missing him.
It didn't, did it?
No.
No, I said it on previous shows. It's exciting time to see what tactics we have with Nuno. He probably go with attacking football, and he gave he gave especially Dele Alli a bit of confidence back. He looks like Dele Alli 5 years ago. Bit of confidence in the lads in defence. Tanganga, whatever his name is, my favourite. But few silly mistakes that Reece up to his usual stuff. His jumping up and catching it and punching it. Well, City were unlucky not to score. I think Nathan Ake had a chance. But no, it was a great, after everything that was been going on with this whole Kane scenario. It was a great victory for I know the players, but especially for the fans. And then I didn't actually see the game. I was actually in work yesterday, but when I saw the starting lineup, I was like, we've been in this position before. Like, we had no Kane, and we played Stone up front, and under Pochettino, that time when Leicester won the league, and Stone was like Pochettino at the time playing the attacking football. He was giving Son a bit of confidence, go out. We don't need Kane. No, we have you. Go out and prove it. And then we had Son scoring hat-trick after hat-trick, game after games. But what can I say? When I saw the starting lineup and I saw Kane was missing again, I was saying, what is the story here? And then down on his profile, it said he's out for personal reasons. And I saying, for fucking personal reasons,
160 million personal reasons.
like I said in previous shows, he's not this kind of player that will sulk like this. Like he said he wants to move. Okay, fair enough, but like don't go missing. Like don't not play. Like
it'd be impossible though to play him in that game yesterday, though, wouldn't it? With all the links and all the press and all and stuff like that.
When I saw when like he was missed for personal reasons, I'm saying he doesn't want to play because he knows he's going to get booed, and he won't be able to take that. But after yesterday, like okay, we won 1-0 against Man City, which is a great result. But like if we would have won 1-0 against like a Norwich or a Brentford, and we have no Kane, and people will be saying, "Oh yeah, it's 1-0 all right," but it was only Brentford. It was only Norwich.
Well,
like,
see,
calm down.
My guess is he would have played in that game.
You think so?
Yeah, I reckon he would have played in that game. I reckon he just didn't play in the City game because there'd be a conflict of interest, if you like, really, if there's negotiations going on. Mark, quick one for you. Grealish and Sterling in the same lineup. Not for me. What was your thinking?
No. Grealish didn't look at the races at all. I don't know whether it's the pressure of, the £100 million man or whatever, but definitely not. It's either one or the other for me. You can't have the two of them in the same team. I know they've probably played together, a small bit in the England setup and stuff like that. But for me, no, it's either for that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mentioned it as well today. I don't understand. You bought a player in to replace a player, and now you're trying to accommodate both of them. And I was thinking, if you want to accommodate both of them, then take Ferran Torres out of the game, put Raheem Sterling up the middle, and put Grealish out on the left. But look, you're playing two guys in for the same position, and I don't know about you guys yesterday, but if you watched the match yesterday, they were wide open on that right side, and every time Spurs attacked, that's the side that they went down and got the most joy on, which is hard to believe that the 100 million signing and Raheem Sterling was the weakest point in their formation. And then I was looking at Jack Grealish in midfield, the midfield of Jack Grealish, Fernandinho, and I think it was Gundogan. And I was thinking, that midfield is so porous. Like, I mean, even Fernandinho, as world class as he is, how's he going to manage that Spurs midfield in there on his own, basically, with two guys who want to attack and bomb forward? You know what I mean? So it was weird. Darren, thoughts on it?
Yeah, I did think it was strange to see both of them now. But it doesn't shock me under Guardiola, if I'm honest, man. I think he's always trying things, and I think he's always, thinking about not maybe just the game they're playing, but games coming in the future. He might have been trying it out. It's, as we said before, you're giving players games at certain times. You need to try them against teams that are going to cause you trouble, as opposed to teams that you're going to roll over. Like, if he goes and tries that against Leeds or Norwich, what does he actually learn from it if they win 4 or 5-0? Whereas in a game like yesterday, where, he knew they were going to be very organised team, Spurs, because obviously he knew now at Wolves, they were very, very organised. They knew what they were going to get. And I mean, he probably just thought, let's try the two boys and see if this works. I don't think it's a definite that it won't work. I just think Grealish will have to play a little more central, as in leave Sterling as the winger, as so to speak, and you'll be playing Grealish more as a number 10. But that for me will only shove Kevin De Bruyne slightly further back. But they may decide to play De Bruyne next to either Fernandinho or Rodri and let him dictate the pace of the play from there. Which will mean a slight rejig in the formation. But I think if you're looking at Mahrez on the right, Sterling on the left, and Grealish behind Harry Kane, with a Rodri or a Fernandinho and a Kevin De Bruyne in there, could you really say you couldn't get enough of them into it? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, just yesterday as well. The one thing that concerned me yesterday was, although they created opportunities, you never felt at any stage that they had that real killer instinct that City normally demonstrates, And I'm looking at City now. Didn't score in the Champions League final, didn't score in the Community Shield, and now didn't score in the opening day of the season. And that, to me, would be very concerning in 3 what we would regard as competitive matches. And the other thing that concerns me as well is just like trying to crowbar players in like that to satisfy other players. It's a recipe for disaster. And what I was thinking yesterday was, if a gap opens up there in what we call the top 4, if we take it's going to be like, not in any particular order, but Chelsea, City, United and Liverpool as the top 4 say. I'm not ruling Spurs out at all, Graham, at this stage, but if we imagine that might make up, I'm thinking if those 3 teams create a gap between themselves and City, I don't see City closing that gap this season, because I think with the signings that have come in and the way teams have come back and the way fans are back in stadiums, I don't think it's going to be as easy to assume that teams are going to drop so much points at home the way we did last season at Anfield and stuff like that. I think if that gap becomes 6 or 9 points, I think City might be out of it because I think all the other teams have stepped up.
Yeah, like I think we look at Chelsea and United straight away. I mean, I know Liverpool's signings now have been sort of renewals and getting lads back in and back on form and stuff like that. But again, we know how good Liverpool can be because other than last season they were they were champions. They've won the league and they finished second with a record amount of points. So if Liverpool rock up, United and Chelsea rock up, it will be tough for City. I did feel, and I spoke to a friend of mine about this yesterday. I looked through the City squad, and the squad for me looks really, really good, I have to say, except for that number 9 position. Jesus is so far off being a Brazilian number 9. It's scary. Torres isn't a striker. He's a winger who likes to tuck inside, but he's not a number 9. And they are missing an out-and-out number 9. And I suppose something I heard somebody speaking about it today, and they talked about City needing a focal point. And I suppose for me, and the first thing came to my head, and you lads might like this, as I heard the word focal point, I thought, Firmino. City maybe needs someone like that up top who necessarily doesn't score all the goals, but somebody that can link the play the way he does, because I don't think Jesus can do it. And I think the false 9 thing will only work so often and against a certain kind of calibre team. I think when you go up against the bigger teams, I think the false 9 can be difficult to do, and we saw Chelsea were able to pick holes in them in the FA Cup last year as well,
Yeah.
I think they need a Lautaro Martinez type player who's an unselfish player as well as a vocal point. I think everyone gives Lukaku great credit and Serie A, he was great, but people forget from watching Inter Milan, Lautaro was very, very helpful to him as a partnership and did his own good work in his own right as well.
Yeah, I think they spoke about last season as well with City as well, that they scored a record number of goals. But I think when you delve down into those goals and where they picked up goals, there's a number of weaker teams out there that they put a bunch of goals by and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that record goals, and I know you have to spread it over the season and look at it in totality, but in reality, there was a lot of very tight games there for City last year as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That people don't
2-1
focus
and everything.
But imagine being Jesus, a backup striker in a club that doesn't have a main striker.
Yeah.
The problem with
you
the
still
smaller
couldn't get a
teams,
game.
the problem with the smaller teams against City, though, they set up for defeat. They set up to try and hold out. Why not have 2 up front and just go for it if you're going to lose anyway? What are you going to do? Get hammered in your way, you know what I mean?
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of that this year with fans back, because fans aren't going to accept that this year. You'll get away with that behind closed doors. But I think a number of those lesser teams, if you like, in the league, I think they're going to take points where we wouldn't expect it. Brentford being a key example there on Friday. How many teams are going to want to go down to Brentford's ground now and stuff like that to face that? You have a sort of a new school stadium with an old school kind of field with fans on top of the action and stuff like that. No messing around with running tracks or fans being 30, 40 yards away from the action. And that's going to be a very tough place to go. And a lot of teams will go away from there either with defeat or barely scraping a draw. So it's going to be really interesting this year to see how it pans out.
Could I say something, Niall, really quickly to Graham regarding Tottenham?
Yeah.
Graham, obviously you have Lloris a bit leaky at the back, and the back line was never settled last season. But I honestly think from looking in, Golini is a very decent goalkeeper, and Romero will obviously know him from playing at Atlanta, who's a very highly rated centre-back. Do you think that could maybe solve going a bit of the problem, but obviously not all of it, but going forward, you might be able to create a new spine with Golini moving into Romero and then moving forward and so on and so forth?
Yeah, well, that all them signings helps out our defence, but if we are to lose Harry Kane, I'd probably think he'd give the captaincy to Lloris anyway. But
I'll keep him as number 1.
He's not going to drop Lloris. He's going to put probably the other fella for the League Cup or the FA Cup.
Yeah,
or both, and the conference and the Europa Conference as well. So give him a bit of game time. But Lloris is going to get the league matches, and he's going to get the important big matches in the cup.
Romero, I think, is going to be massive though for you. He's outstanding and he's very physical and very pacey as well.
Yeah, well, we're not done yet. We've hopefully with 2 or 3 more before the window closes. So it's good that we're making signings in defence. Next, we kind of need another striker and probably just another midfielder.
So that's fine, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. Mark, Chelsea 3-0 against Crystal Palace. Obviously a very good win. Obviously Palace, a team I think that will struggle this year. Patrick Vieira in there is a new manager. But again, if I'm nitpicking, still no goal for Timo Werner.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? It's just, to me, it's just weird. He knows Lukaku's coming in. Not a great Crystal Palace side. Should be going out there really laying down a marker and doing the business and giving the manager something food for thought, really. No?
No, I agree. Like, that's one of the cons. I think one of the pros, though, is Alonso scoring. Like, since Tuchel's come in, Alonso's looked like a 19-year-old running up and down that wing, and I think Chilwell's going to find it very hard to kind of get his place back into the team, and it's the same the other side. Azpilicueta, when Tuchel came in, he wasn't really getting a look in too much. Reece James is starting a lot, and he looks like a totally different player under Tuchel as well. But yeah, Timo, if you're a Chelsea fan, you would be worried. You'd be expecting to get a few goals against the likes of Palace, and that's no disrespect to them. Like, they're one of the teams that I think will be relegated, like yourself, Niall. But overall 3-0, you'd expect that at home on your first game against Palace,
Yeah. In terms of Lukaku coming in, Darren, I mean, do we really think that this link-up play with him and Timo was going to happen? Like, I mean, is Lukaku going to come in really under the umbrella of that 100 million transfer and be the guy who's a provider? Or is he going to be the guy who's absolutely going to be pelting them into the back of the net?
Oh, he's most certainly the guy going to be there looking for 30 goals, I don't necessarily agree with, Lukaku's going to solve an awful lot of problems for Timo here. I think Timo needs to solve some of his own problems, to be honest with you. Especially when I look at what Chelsea have around that kind of midfield and upper end of the pitch. Like, you've got Mason Mount, you've got Christian Pulisic again, you've got Ziyech, like you've got Havertz. Got Havertz, for me, is going to be the 10 that provides all the ammunition for Lukaku being the 9. I think Lukaku and Havertz are going to be absolutely outrageous. I think you'll flank them with the likes of Pulisic and Mount, and you'll have Kante in the middle with Jorginho or Kovacic, and I think that's very, very strong.
I think Timo might only start coming in for the League Cup games and FA Cup games then at that stage,
Yeah, like Timo could end up being their backup number 9 as opposed to because for me, I don't think he creates enough. I don't think he's creatively as good as the likes of Pulisic. For me, and certainly Havertz. Like, Havertz is on a different planet, I have to say. I thought he did a difficult enough season at Chelsea, but I think there was enough to see to go, you know what, this kid has everything it takes to be a top footballer, and given a little more time to settle in a league like you've just come into, I think he'll be a massive success, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, looking at they're spoiled for riches up front when you think about it. Obviously, Ziyech in the Super Cup, he picked up that shoulder injury and stuff like that. And then I was thinking, okay, if he's out of the way, that solves one of Tuchel's headaches in terms of selection choice. Because I was thinking, if Lukaku comes in, I mean, he has to go straight into the team without a shadow of a doubt. And the question is then, what sort of combination do you play with him? Is he going to try and go down the road of the Leipzig style, where you'd have Timo playing off him and stuff like that? Or is it a case, as you said, is Timo very quickly going to become the backup to Lukaku and he's going to surround himself with Havertz? I look at Tuchel at the moment. He seems to fancy Pulisic more of a sub than he does as a starter. And as you said, Mark, with Alonso coming in as well and very powerful there, and it seems to be in his thinking, because he fell out with him last year when he first came in. Remember, they had that blow up on the sideline during the game as well. So yeah, Alonso looks like he's really fired up for this season. But I'd be worried about Timo Werner. And I know Wayne talks about him, Chelsea Raw, saying no, he thinks he's going to work that big front man just off him, and that will reap rewards and success. I'd have a fear like you, Mark, about whether both of them be on the pitch at the same time. And I don't see Lukaku. I know he provided a few goals last year, but he also fed off Martinez. But he's the guy who's going to be slamming the ball in the back of the net. He's not going to be looking back in this season with 10 goals and 25 assists. That's not what he's looking for. you know.
No.
So
I think when you look at Chelsea, they've always been renowned with that big kind of physical presence up front, Diego Costa, Didier Drogba, and Elke. And Tuchel's not going to care about Timo Werner finally, settling into the team. If it's not working, he'll be out the door. He'll be on the bench. I could even see them going to a 4-2-3-1 with Havertz playing, like a 3 behind Lukaku. Maybe Havertz.
That's the way I think they'll eventually play.
See, the problem is
with Havertz as the 10 behind the 9 Lukaku.
Yeah.
Like, you have to remember last season, it was a difficult season for Havertz, but as well, when he looks up and he sees, what have I got to aim for? Werner's obviously out on the wing, or he's fucking over here or there. Where if he has his focal point in Lukaku, who's very central, who can hold the ball up and maybe bring him into play like Son and Kane kind of do, where they can kind of integrate each other in, Werner won't be in question. He won't be even in the question of the team.
Lukaku's going to absolutely play on the shoulder of that last defender.
Yeah.
He's going to look for those little balls around the corners, those little balls through gaps and spaces, and he'd be looking for balls into feet because he knows, I'm sure you've all seen the interview he did before with Sky. He does it with Jamie Carragher. Listen, he said, if anyone gets one-on-one with me and I get a hold of them, he says, they're not getting me off the ball. So he's very confident
as well. Havertz has someone.
Joy for Havertz because he's got something to aim for, which last season he knew aiming for Timo, that wasn't going to happen. So that also makes it more difficult for you to create, knowing that the bloke that you're trying to create for hasn't got the ability to do what you need him to do,
And they can pull the ball wide, they can get the ball into the box.
Get the ball wide, they can put crosses in the box, they can have lads arriving. No, I think Chelsea are going to be, up there this season, I got to say.
I think Jorginho and Kante will be the two sitting, they'll just let the lads express themselves up front, and they've enough firepower to do that.
Yeah,
very scary.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be in the shake-up when it comes to the title race, but I don't think they'll be in the shake-up in the way that Chelsea fans think in the way they're going to play, similar to the way they played at Leipzig. I just think it'll be slightly different. I think Lukaku will be a powerhouse, not dissimilar to Drogba or Costa. Drogba and Costa don't be looking to play people in. They'll be looking to hit the back of the net. And I think with Havertz there on the supply line and also picking up goals, Pulisic, Ziyech when he comes back and stuff like that, I could see Timo Werner becoming the forgotten man very, very quickly, Let's move on to another one that's an interesting one for me. This was a kind of a bet killer as well. We've all spoken fondly about Aston Villa on these shows and how they've done great business and stuff like that. So I look at the scores there the other day and I see Watford, I think we're 3-0 up at one stage. I'm going, hang on a minute, what happened to this project Aston Villa with all these new signings? Craig, you spoke fondly about Buendia and all and Ings and all this.
Yeah, I'll tell you, right, it's the first game, so we give them the benefit of doubt. You can't just put like a brand new team together and expect them to go out and perform. The Watford team, credit to them, like I didn't give them a chance. I had in the accumulator, hold me hand up, you know what I mean? But that manager has been with them players and the system the whole season. Dean Smith is getting over the Grealish era, getting his new signings embedded. People are coming in the door every few days. I feel by the looks of it. Yeah. So it's going to take time. I think, when they iron everything out, when they start to understand each other's play and stuff like that, when Leon Bailey comes in, who I'm very excited to see, as well as Buendia, Danny Ings up front, Watkins was out injured. I could imagine Watkins and Ings both playing together maybe at some stage in a two. Maybe with Villa a bit of time to embed each, get used to each other and the system. I didn't give Watford a prayer. I rang you after work and I was like, fucking hell, it's 3-1 to Watford. I said, fuck this.
I visions of you standing on a bin just throwing betting dockets into it one after the other with Villa being a bank.
25 cents. 25 cents.
25 cents each way.
The 50-cent bets work, man. Why give the bookies a fiver when you can give them 50 cents and take €26? That's how you do it.
Depends on whether you want to take $5,000 or 500 off them, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but when does the $5,000 ever show up? If I did a fiver on the 50 cent, it wouldn't come in. But
Absolutely,
it doesn't work that way, unfortunately. But no, I think Villa could be a top 6, top 7 contender when they hit the ground running, when the system is in the works. I really rate Dean Smith as a manager, and I think their signings have been spot on. I think their recruitment has been really good. They haven't just kind of gone out and blown the money anywhere,
Yeah, I think it looks like Dean Smith, he just has a bit of work to do on the training ground, really. I think all the assets are there to be successful. But I think it's gelling them together and trying to figure out what's the best way. These guys probably only playing together a couple of times, already. So,
and I asked Darren and Mark a quick question actually, and it's to do with Villa in a way. Alex Tuanzebe obviously gone back on loan to Villa. I thought he might have been stay at United to kind of learn from the likes of Varane coming in like a Rolls Royce centre half, and maybe he would have even pushed Lindelof for a backup place. How did you feel about that? Or he's happy he's gone to Villa for maybe more game time? Because I do rate him over Mings and I like Hansa a lot.
I don't think he was going to get the game time at United, Craig, which is the problem, I think it's great learning from guys in training sessions and stuff like that. But ultimately, from United's point of view, we need to see performances on the pitch for us to be able to say, he could go into one of our sides and hold his own. I think we may still see him back at United. I'm not fully convinced. Obviously, I'm hoping Phil Jones exit stage left fairly soon, and I'm also hoping that I don't think Boy's going to hang around too much longer if he's going to be down a fourth choice. So if you're looking at Jones and maybe Boy both stepping out, it could be that Tuanzebe plays even 6 months of Villa, maybe the full season, and then after some extra games under his belt, comes back in to be part of that back four, those four centre backs that are going to challenge for spots. I think he's all the attributes to be a great centre back. He's big, he's strong, he's fast, he reads the game pretty well. He's a good communicator. I think as centre backs though, sometimes they take a little while to just kind of get going in a team. But we've seen like the likes of Chiellini and the Italian boys, like they can play for years if they can read the game well, So I don't think he's finished at United, but I do think he's at a stage where he's got to play games now and prove to himself and to United that he's capable of taking a spot,
Yeah, I'd have him in over Mings any day of the week. I think he's a liability, but I like Hansa a lot.
I think Mings is all right now, I have to say. I think again he's a typical English centre back. He's no nonsense, He's gonna win aerial battles. He's not gonna be playing any Franz Beckenbauer balls, cross field at the outside of his foot around like that. But he marshals that Villa defence quite well. He's got the two young lads as the right and left back target and Cash. So it's nice to have a slightly older head in there and maybe bring a bit of experience into the back four. Because other than himself, I think the three boys are all under the age of like 24. So I don't think you'd go in with a Tuanzebe, because I just think, well, unless Mings is injured, I think he just brings that little bit of leadership to the back five.
Yeah, absolutely,
definitely.
Mark, Rafa on the blue side of Merseyside getting off to a win, but Southampton, I'm sure, must have given them a fright with taking the lead. But the boys came through, Calvert-Lewin and all, and they got a 3-1 win.
Yeah.
Very strange to see Rafa at Goodison. I don't know about you guys. Even I know I'm a Liverpool fan, but I just think in general to see him there, it just feels weird,
Imagine how the Everton fans feel.
Yeah, I'd say they're probably feeling all right after getting the season off to a 3-1 start. I'm sure they're not too upset about it,
Yeah. No, again, Southampton are one of the teams I think will struggle this year. So, like you said, they probably got a fright, but you always knew Everton will get the win over the line in the end,
Yeah.
They have too much quality, like you said, Calvert-Lewin and all up front to bang the goals and stuff. So, but yeah, no, I think just going back to your point there, Craig and Darren, we definitely agree with that. I think Boy might just stay in this window. He might go in January. And don't forget, Craig, we have Scott McTominay. You can play centre half as cover as well. So
for Scotland he does, doesn't he?
He won't be playing anywhere other than centre midfield. He plays like he did the weekend. He was very good.
Yeah, no, he was lethal now, but yeah, I'd agree with Darren absolutely. Phil Jones has to go as well. So sorry, I'm taking over your Everton talk there. No, sorry.
No, that's okay, because it wasn't so much about Everton as I was going to move on from your point that, like, I think Southampton are in trouble unless they do a bit of business in the next 2 weeks. I think Hasselhutl's going to come under serious trouble.
Did Vestergaard go? Did his move go over the line?
18 minutes.
Yeah, but it's also what I'd be worried about is last season they were doing okay once Ings was in the side and scoring goals. But once he went out of the side and got injured as well, they just collapsed down the table. Yeah. And I think if they're starting from that position this year, it's going to be a long, hard season for the Saints and for Hasselhout. I'd be worried about them, you know.
Like Shea Adams is a decent striker, you know. He scored a lot of goals at Birmingham and stuff like that, but I don't think he'll get you a 20-goal season.
Yeah.
I think the problem we have, go on down, sorry.
No, I think, sorry to cut across you, Craig. I think Che Adams is a decent striker in the championship. And I think the boy from Blackburn, Armstrong, is a decent striker in the championship. I don't think either of them are going to be able to create goals for themselves the way Ings did. Because for me, Southampton didn't create an awful lot of Ings goals. He did so much of the creativity himself, be it running down balls, be it taking the ball with his back to goal and doing an awful lot of the work. I think Ings going to Villa, I think that's Villa's biggest kill for me, is getting someone like that in the door. I know they spent big money on Buendia, who was a super footballer. I think he'll do very well. I think getting Bailey in was a good deal as well. But I think, you know, there's a lot of clubs. I think if Manchester City don't get Harry Kane in the door, they'll regret not getting Danny Ings in the door for me.
Yeah, good call. Suppose the other two results we should go to. Brighton obviously beating Burnley at Turf Moor 2-1. Great to see Potter off to a winning start. I really do like Graham Potter, and I like the brand of football that he plays with Brighton as well. Yeah. And the fact that I don't really like Sean Dyche at all either, you know what I mean? So looking forward to playing them lunchtime on Saturday anyway. The other one,
a big Dyche fan.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. The other one was a good win for West Ham, who went behind at Newcastle, but they came back to win 4-2. Looks like David Moyes is still continuing on his good form there at West Ham.
What was that Fornals lad doing? Seriously, like, for that penalty? Sake. Murphy clearly gets the ball, like.
Yeah,
clearly gets the ball.
I don't think he knows himself what he was doing anyway, so it doesn't really matter. The one thing I'm encouraged about West Ham as well, with the way Moyes has them set up, is they're getting goals from all over the park as well, so they're not as heavily reliant as Mikel Antonio as they have been in the past. So that's an encouraging thing for the Hammers as well, and I think they will have a good season. A lot of people were expecting them not to have as good a season as they had last year, but I think they'll be in that shake-up for the top six. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of really good players there now, and Moyes has them playing a real nice brand of football. I got a friend of mine who's a big Hammers fan. He's a season ticket holder, and I spoke to him today, and he also expects 2 to 3 bodies in the door before the end of the window.
Lingard on loan. I've seen something possibly about another loan deal for Jesse Lingard.
Yeah, Lingard won't be alone. If it happens, it won't be alone. There's not a chance. Yeah, it'll have to be money. But I think he's talking about, like, I know they were linked with Milinkovic, who's now been linked with Spurs. They couldn't do a deal there. Yeah, so they're looking at centre back. They're looking at centre midfield, to go in alongside Declan Rice, and they're also looking for a striker. I think the word on the street was that David Moyes couldn't get the targets he wanted early doors, because getting those targets depended on who the guys ahead of him in the queue got. So he was going to be left with A, B, and D instead of, you know, A, B, and E, and E, you know, that type of thing. So I think they have their eye on big things. I think they're still looking to get rid of a few players. I know Darren Randolph's trying to get out of there for the end of the window as well, so he's dropped further down the pecking order. But I think they're looking for the spine of the team. So don't be surprised to see West Ham make signings in the down that spine, which could give them a big push for top 6, you know.
I think Benrahma could be like a brand new signing all over again, because he didn't really get to see what he was about last season. Big injury in and out of the team, but I think if he stays fit, he's like Mahrez, like he's outstanding.
Very similar to Mahrez. That's what I was going to say.
That's and he's a joy to watch. You know, he's really good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And you've Antonio absolutely killing himself up front.
Yeah.
Regardless of how much ability you have, when you work the way a bloke works like him, you're gonna do well.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know.
Well, lads, a pleasure as always having you all on. This has been a great Monday mashup. Great chat about what's going on at the weekend and the latest news out of the clubs. Of course, I'd like to dedicate today's show to obviously Gert Muller, who passed away the other day. Who was a record goal scorer in international level everywhere that he played football. Really, he was a record goal scorer, but certainly had the 40-goal record in the Bundesliga up till last season when Lewandowski took it off him on the last day of the season. I think with a penalty scoring 41. Absolutely outstanding record. Absolutely outstanding football. Most of us probably wouldn't have seen him unless we looked at YouTube videos and stuff like that. But exceptional footballer, and for a guy who had an eye for the net every single time, you know what I mean? So we said we dedicate the show to the memory of Gert Muller tonight, who sadly passed away. But gentlemen, until next time, we shall catch you again next week. No doubt we will be talking during the week on various different shows. And don't forget, man, to send in your tips for the new show coming up on Friday, Beat the Bookie, where we're going to be giving out some of our tips, and you guys are going to have to stand by whatever tips you give out there. There's men and viewers waiting with bated breath to see what these tips are.
Keep your money in your pocket.
It has to be Lukaku to score and Chelsea to win anyway, doesn't it?
Lord Martin Braithwaite hat-trick the weekend.
There he is. There's the European correspondent coming in, giving us the La Liga tips without a shadow of a doubt. Gentlemen, until next time, absolute pleasure. Dynamo Podcast Network on YouTube. Anchor for all the different audio versions of the show. Drop your comments down below in the video. Let us know what you're thinking. Or if you have tips for next weekend, drop your tips in there. As always, gamble responsibly. And we always push that on the show. We will talk to you again next week. Cheers, man.
Cheers.
Man.